Hello everybody, and we are back. We are moving on to creating an actual post UI. So this is it. This is what we're going to be creating. As you can see, we have the profile picture here, and then we have the username, and then we have the time through which the profile picture, through which the post was made, and then we have the caption of the post, and then we have the actual picture that comes with the post with the like and the hearts, with the 24. So these are reactions basically. So 245 likes, just a hard coded value that we have there, and then we have the 35 comments over here as well. Alright, so now that we know this, let us just dive straight into building it. Alright, so now that we are back into the project, let us just cd into the client side. So I'll cd to the client, and then I can just run my npm run dev. Check my mic. Yeah, it works. Okay, so npm run dev should start the server. Okay, so we can now refresh, and then we should see that we have just this over here. So we now have to create this. So in order for us to be able to create this, what do we do? Now I am going to do a few things, right? Let us go back to VS Code, and then we create a new component. We can say this is a post, so the actual post component, right? So what I can do is over here, the component, I can create like a folder, say posts, right? And I can create a post.jsx, and then this post.jsx RAFCE bring out the actual post component. Then we import it here. We import the post component, we import it over here. Now that we have it working as we expect it to, you should see it show over here. Okay, so I'm going to go into this post component, and then we are going to work on a few things, right? So what is the plan, right? So what is the plan? The plan is we are going to have a big div, right, like I showed before, and then we have the section on the right and the section on the left, right? So we have the three dots here, and then we have profile picture, the username, and then the minutes. Then we have the caption, and then we have the picture with the reactions and the comments. All right, so let's work on that. So we have our main div here. Our main div is going to be the card. So how do we style the card? We are basically going to give it a full width, and then we are going to give it like a border radius. So I can say rounded MD, and I can give it like a large shadow. Let's give it a large shadow, and then we can give it like a margin top. Can give it a margin top of 30 pixels. Give it a margin top of 30 pixels. Let me check my mic. Okay, it works. Give it a margin top of 30 pixels. Then we have this margin bottom, and then we give that also 30 pixels. You won't be able to see the difference, but I think if I give it like a test background color, you should be able to see something. Okay, yeah, I've not given it the height, right? So let us add the next thing. So over here we're going to add another div that is going to give us the and this div is going to have like a padding, and then with this padding we are going to put in the other elements that we are going to put in, and that is what's going to help us see this main div, right? So let's give it a class name and give it a padding of a specific value of 10 pixels. Okay, oh come on, yeah, 10 pixels. What is wrong with this? Padding 10 pixels. Okay, then inside, if I just say span, yes, let us go and check what is there. Okay, you can see the difference that has been made over here, right? So we can continue working. Okay, so now that we have this div in there with its padding, what do? We want to add a few things, right? We want to add a div, right? Now this div is basically going to contain the profile image, the username, and then the minutes, right? And then lastly is going to, and then the last div is going to contain is the three dots, right? That is going to show the multi menus, right? The pop-up menus that we're going to manipulate our post with, right? So here's what I'm going to do. Let us create a div here. Okay, let us create a div. Then we can add the image, right? And we can add another span here that gives us the username. So I can say Sylvester Asante. Then what else do I do? I'm gonna add another span here. And then this span I'm gonna say 20 minutes ago. You know, all these things are hard coded. We would work on the main implementation in the next series. So let's just keep going. So now that we have all of these things here, I'm going to add this last div and right under it, right? I'm gonna add this div here, right? So this is the point where we are going to import a certain icon, right? So for the three dots, so what we are going to do is we're going to get it from React icon. So let's import it really quick. So import, then we open this up. Let me check my mic. Okay, mic still works. So we're going to import md, right? We are going to import md outline, okay, md outline more vets. And where are we getting this from? We're getting it from React icons, right? So now that we've been able to import that, we can bring out the md in here, right? Okay, so now everything has been arranged. We can add an image, but we can go and see what our things are going. As you can see, this is it, right? We have this. We can add the image here and quickly style it. Mistake. Okay, right. So now that we have this section here, let us import our image really quickly. So we can import profile picture again, as we always do. Profile pic, then we import it from the file path inside this quotation. Okay, so I'll take it from assets, and then I'm gonna say profile pic.jpg, right? Okay, now that we've been able to work on this, we can now replace it with this actually. Then we can say profile pic. Okay, then over here I can just copy this. I can just copy that and paste it here and say profile picture. Okay, let us write it well. Profile picture, right? So it's a very nice alternative text that we can put in there. Now what do we do next? We can now style the picture, because when we go back here we will see something. Okay, it says profile pic.jpg doesn't exist. Okay, that is weird. Let me refresh. Okay, it says still it doesn't. Let me check really quick. It says profile pic. It's actually a small p. So when we go back to go and check, you should see that we have this really big thing that we do not want. Let me first of all take out this bg that we have. I'm gonna take out this bg red that we have. Okay, and 500, right? Okay, then for here, let me style it really quick. Now let us make the width what? Let us give it a width of 32 pixels. 32 pixels. Then after giving it that width, we want to give it a height, okay, of another 32 pixels. Then what else do we want to do to it? We want to come here and then make it what? An rounded full. We want to make it a rounded full, right? And then finally we want to give it what? Object cover. All right, so let us go back to see that it is working as we expect it to. All right, now we want to arrange these things so that they look like we expect them to, right? So what are we going to do? Now that we have this padding being set, we want to come down here, and then we add the class name, and then the class name is going to be a flex, then item center, to align item center. And then over here, now that we have that, we check, we should see the alignment. But how do we now do our separation? Okay, now we need to take note of a few things, right? We need to take note of a few things. All right, now we need to know that these things, right, these ones are here, right? But in order for us to be able to separate this dot from these items, we need to put them in another div that can contain both of them, right? So we take this one, hold alt, make sure that it's on the line 11. That is where this is. Hold alt, then bring it down. So arrow down is what brings it down, arrow up takes it up, arrow down brings it down here. Then I'll save. Okay, then what happens is that we can now add some stylings here. Now we can give it like a flex. Okay, and then we can align the items at the center again. Now that we've been able to align them, we can justify between. Okay, now that we justify between, we should see it. Okay, it now looks a little bit better, but we need to give in some margins here just so that we can give in some spaces, right? So how do we do that really quickly? Now there are some ways we can do that. See, as you can see, all these items are in the same div, right? So over here we can like simply add a gap of let's say 10 or 5 pixels. Let's say 5 pixels for now, and check, and you should see that we have the spaces. But no, I wouldn't want something like that necessarily. So I wouldn't just want to give them gaps like that. So what I'll do is I'll just change and do something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this span here that has your username, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, let's first of all give it a font bold. Okay, let us make sure that the font is bold, or let's say font weight. If you're using normal CSS, you set it to like 500, it will work for you. And then we have the margin left. Margin left is, you're going to give margin left to be 10 pixels, right? 10 pixels. And then let's give a margin right as well. Let's give it a margin right as well, and let's see another 10 pixels really quick. Now you can see that it's bold, and it has been able to give it the 20 minutes ago space, and the space between this one as well. So what do we do now? Now that we've been able to work on that, I want to make sure that my 20 minutes ago becomes a little smaller. Now if you're using normal CSS, you could set it to like font size 24 pixels, but you can play around with that. But for Tailwind, what we can do is we can come here and then give it a class name of text sm. Okay, now that we have text sm here, what we can do is that we can come here to this icon, and then I would okay, let us look at the text first. As you can see, it has reduced, right? Let's go to the icon and style it, right? As you can see, the icon here seems a little bit too small, so I want to set a few properties to it, right? So this class name I'm going to do is I'm going to increase its size. So I'm going to give it a text size of XL extra large. Let's go and look at it, and you can see it has increased. I want to give like a cursor pointer as well. Before I've already, you can see that, yeah, it now makes more sense. Do we want to add, let's give it a hover, or okay, you never mind, let's just keep going. All right, so we have this side here working well for us. What do we do now? We want to now be working on the caption section, and then the post picture section, right? So how do we work on that? Since we have these bad boys in their own div right here, what we can do now is to come down here again and then create another div. Okay, so you can see that we are separating this whole div, right? And then we are creating another one right under this. It's a bit confusing if you're now a beginner. That's why I'm taking my time to go through this. All right, so now under here that we have this div, what do we do now? We want to make sure that in this div we have the caption, right? So let's give it a span. Let's give it a span actually. So we can say this is a test post. Okay, this is a test post. Now inside this test post, we want to make sure that we are having an image in here, right? But this image is going to be a post picture, right? So I went to Pixels and I went to get me some really cool pictures on Pixels, and I think this is the one that I took. So I'm just going to drag it from the download section, bring it here, and just drop it over here. And then I'll just change the name by pressing enter. If I'm on a Mac, I'll just press enter, or you can right click and click on rename, and then you can say postpic.jpg, you know. Then after you have the postpic.jpg, you can go back here and then you can import this by saying import. Then you can bring out what postpic. Then we can import it from this path, which is what the assets. We can take it from the assets, and then we say what postpic.jpg. Okay, so now that we have this, we can come right under here and then we can apply it. So let us put it inside postpic, and then we can say post picture as well. Give it a really nice alt in case. So as you can see, the picture has been added beautifully, but it's not up to our standard or up to how we like it. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do right now? We are basically going to add a few other elements before we now start doing a general styling. But before we go there, let us make sure that we have styled the center part, which is the caption and the post picture, right? So inside the main div that contains the caption and the post pic, here's what we are going to do. We are going to add a margin top, right? So over here we want to separate it. We want to separate this from the title part, so we want to give it a margin top. Okay, so the margin top, we're going to give it a margin top of what, 20 pixels. Yeah, 20 pixels should do. Margin top of 20 pixels. And then over here we want to give it a margin bottom of another 20 pixels. Margin bottom of another 20 pixels. Then what else are we going to do? Then we want to make sure that the post pic over here that we have is going to have its own class name, and then for that reason we need to make sure that we are correcting a few things. Okay, now what are the properties that is going to have? We're going to make sure that this one also has a margin top, so that we separate it from the caption as well. So like a margin top of 20 pixels, which is really cool. 20 pixels. Then we can come here as well, and then we can add a full width, and that is with 100 pixels, 100%, yeah, width for 100% if you're using real CSS. Okay, and then object cover. Okay, no, let's use object contain, because if we use object cover and let's say you upload a vertical image or something, if you use object cover and you upload an image that doesn't fit the ratio or the real size that we're going to give this, the max height and everything that we're going to give it, you realize that at the end of the day some parts of the photos will be cut out. But when we do it contain, it will try to fit through the ratio, but it's just that it will just be a little small, but it should fit and it should look good. Okay, so let's make it object contain instead. All right, now let us set the maximum height. Let us set the maximum height. I think it's h max, right? Yeah, h max. Then the maximum height is going to be what, 500 pixels. right? Yeah, maximum height is 500 pixels. Okay, then what do we do now? After we've been able to work on these bad boys here, I'm just a little unsure about this property. So let's do that on a plain inline style prop. Let's do that on a plain inline style prop. Let's set the max height here. Max height here, we have it here. Let's set that to what? 500 pixels. I feel safer doing it this way for some reason. So yeah, we have the max height set to 500 pixels, and yes, it is seen as we expect it to. Okay, now that we've been able to work on that, let us now go into the last section, which is the one on the bottom. And basically that part is basically going to contain the reactions information and then the comments, right? So it's going to be right under this photo. Okay, so how do we add that? What we are going to do is, under this div, I'm going to add another div here. Okay, and then this div is going to have another div. Okay, now inside this other div, we are not going to put inside anything, but we are going to add another div right under it. Now we are doing this because we are trying to separate elements, right? We are trying to separate a group of elements. So while I add these elements, you should understand how I'm working with these items, right? So inside this first div, I'm going to add an image element. Okay, I'm going to add the image element here. Gonna add the image element here. Now that we have this image element there, I'm gonna add another image element right below. Okay, I'm gonna add another image element right below. But what are these image elements going to contain? They are going to contain the icons for the like and the heart, so basically the reactions in general. So right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to pick this up and drop it just like what we do. Yeah, I needed to. Why is it wasting that much time? Let me just go into the downloads and get them. I'm gonna go into the downloads and get them. So I'm gonna drag and drop it here and drag and drop this one here as well. But I'll just change this one to heart instead. Then I will close this and close this and close this. So over here, what we are going to do is I'm going to import these icons. I'm going to import these icons. Let me check my mic. Okay, my mic works. I'm going to import these items. I'm going to say like icon. I like that one better. So import like icon from where? From the assets folder. Okay, from the assets folder. Then I'm going to say what? Like.png. Then what am I going to do to the other one? I'm going to import the heart icon from what? Heart.png. Okay, then we now add these two icons together, like icon, and then we have what? The heart icon. Now what we can do is you can just copy and paste them into the alternatives. Okay, now that we have that working as we expect it to, we want to add the count, right? So the reaction count, right? So over here we are going to add a span, and then this span is going to contain something like, let's say 5, 6, 7 likes. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then we go into our second div that we created here, and then we now add a span that talks about the comments and the counts, right? So the span here, we're now taking what, let's say 52 comments. 52 comments. All right, now that we have these items in here, let us style them. Look at them really quick. You can see how big they are. God damn. So let us style them, right? Let us make them look good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back into VS Code real quick, and then over here I'm gonna give it a class name, right? So the class name I'm gonna give it a flex, okay, and then I'm going to align the items to the center, okay. Then we can now say what justify between. Now the reason why we want to use justify between is to separate the comments from these reactions, right? Now that looks good in my opinion a bit. So let us now style these things for them to look better, as that should be our aim. So here I'm gonna add a class name. Wait, what? I'm gonna add a class name here. Then I am going to say flex. Then I'm gonna say what item center again, and then we can give it like a gap. I want to give it a gap this time. I want to give it a gap of 5 pixels actually. So you can see now they are here. So we now have to manipulate the sizes of these things, and then everything should work as we expect it to. So I'm going inside this like icon. I'm going to the class name actually, and I'm going to give it a width of 24 pixels, and then I'm gonna give it a height of 24 pixels as well. Okay, now that we have that, I think we can copy that, as we can just copy this class name and just paste it here, and then when you go back to check, you can see that they have come back to normal as we expect them to be. So now that we have these bad boys working as we expect them to be working, I can go back here, I can come back here, and I can go to my span here, that is the count, and then I can add like a class name to style it a bit. So what are we trying to do? We are just trying to reduce the text, so we're just going to give it text sm, and then that should look small. That is okay. And then we now go to the span of this one, give it a class name. So the class names you're going to first of all say is going to be cursor pointer. We're going to be cursor pointer. We're going to give it a bg. No, we're going to give it a border, but we're going to give it like a border button, and then the button, the border bottom is going to be 1 pixels, right? And then we are going to color it. Without coloring it, you're not going to see it. So we're going to set the border to slate, and then we are going to say 400. No, let's give it 300. Then I'll say text small as well. Okay, so let's go back to look at our project, and you should see it here. But it looks like there's a little bit of a problem around here, because I can see that we have these ones not having enough padding in the project. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to go into the wrapper. Seems there's a problem around here. I'm going to increase this a bit to see if it will fix it. Okay, looks like, let me refresh, because that doesn't seem right. Okay, I'm not getting the expected paddings. Let me, oh no, let me set the padding towards here to see. Let me set it to 20 pixels intentionally and check. Okay, so I guess what we need to do right now is I'm gonna go back here and set this to 10 and see the change. Okay, yeah, I think I like this change better. Okay, yeah, I like. Okay, I think there's a bit of a big space on top. Let me set the padding here also to 10. Then things should be normal. Okay, so I like this design, and then it looks just like what I demonstrated at the beginning. And I just want to thank you for getting to this point of the tutorial. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, of which you're going to work on the right bar. All right, thank you very much. Bye bye.